Well, before the identity of the killer is revealed, a few last-minute accusations and realizations are placed. Hey guys, come over Riverdale, Season 1, Episode 11, to Riverdale and back again. And guys, I was definitely really looking forward to this episode because we are now at the home stretch of the season, and at this point, anything could really go down. We are so close to finding out who actually did murder Jason Blossom, and this was another really great episode. A lot of big revelations coming out here. Definitely a lot of things that make me, kind of rethink a lot of the theories that I've had about, who could have murdered Jason Blossom and things like that, but also a lot of interesting stuff going on with some of the other crimes going on in the show, because we know that's not the only thing that's been going on. But let's just get into this episode, because there definitely is a lot to talk about. As usual, like a million things happen, but we start off and we see, we start with the students of Riverdale going about their day, and Jughead is narrating about the school's homecoming dances on the horizon, and basically how everyone's preparing for that, and Betty asks Principal Weatherby to hand off her decorating committee duties to Ethel. So it seems that Betty is trying to stay on Ethel's good side. As we know, Betty and Ethel kind of seem to make amends a little bit. Like, they actually do seem to be becoming genuinely very good friends, which I really do like. I want to see more of Ethel. I like her character. I really like that actress. I liked her, of course, in loved her in Stranger Things. I think we all did, and I'm glad to see that she is getting more roles, so I'm glad they're giving Ethel more stuff to do. But we then see Archie and Mary. They're talking in the Andrews house, and Mary laments about not bringing Archie with her to Chicago with him, and he reassures that he's happy in Riverdale. He doesn't really need to be anywhere else, and he invites her to watch him sing at the homecoming dance. And I like seeing Mary in this episode. It was a little bit jarring, definitely, to see Fred with someone that wasn't Hermione, but I like that we did get to see Mary out there. As we know, again, they did a great job foreshadowing the last episode of how Mary constantly believed that Riverdale was not a safe place. So you knew once she came back that she was probably going to get Archie out of Riverdale. And that's exactly what she's trying to do here. She's doing whatever she can to try to convince him that this is a horrible, vile place. And I mean, she's not wrong. Riverdale is really not the safest area to be, but at the same time, she is kind of compromising a lot of the achievements and a lot of the relationships he's made there. I mean, there's a lot of things going down. It's just not the time for him to leave. So Hermione tells Veronica that Hiram could be released from jail in the near future, and Veronica's really unsure about how that's going to go. After all he's done, is that really possible? She says that Hiram could still be responsible for Jason's murder. Now, I really do have this feeling that that's not the case, because yes, they did cast Hiram. We know Hiram's going to be Mark Consuelo, so we know we're probably going to see him at the end of this season. But I doubt that he would be the one responsible, because would they really spend all this time on this murder for the murder of Jason Blossom be a character that that's only been mentioned? I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to me for them to do that. So I doubt that it actually is Hiram. I don't think he's the one responsible for Jason's murder. You guys can say whatever you want, but I doubt that he really is the one that is responsible. I just don't think it's possible that could be that could be the case. But Jughead then delivers breakfast to FP, who is more chipper and put together than usual, and he compliments Jughead on his manuscript, but he asks why Jughead has been writing about Jason. Like, why is he so interested in this murder that he really doesn't have anything to do with? And Jughead reveals that he doesn't care who killed Jason. He's more transfixed on the case because he feels it speaks to Riverdale's innocence. And yeah, in many ways that's true. We know that Riverdale was a much better town, and things just seemed a lot more put together before this happened. And now all these secrets are coming out. Everyone, no longer can just hide behind the shield that they've been protecting themselves in. Riverdale's just not, like I said, a safe area anymore, and I think it really does make sense why Jughead is starting to get that. So he really wants to move on from the case soon. FP suggesting that he really does try to do that, and that's something I'm wondering is, once this case is revealed, what is Jughead really going to do? He's invested so much time in this case to find a way to, I guess, continue Riverdale's innocence and really try to figure out what he can do here. But once this case is over, what is Jughead really going to do? That's something that I think we're really going to have to see what happens, once we get to the end of the season. So Archie then finds Veronica in the halls, and understandably, things are kind of awkward between them, because as we know, we see in this episode, they did, in fact, sleep together at that party, because he's apologizing for not calling her after the party, and she explains that their hookup was good, but that her life is just too complicated to really let Archie be her boyfriend at the moment, which was actually smart. I'm glad that Veronica didn't just, like, jump into this, which is not at all what Archie would have done. Archie would have been like, oh yeah, I can totally handle this, because again, Archie's not exactly smart. He kind of just jumps into things. He doesn't really think of the implications that things could have on him and the people around him, and that's something I think really does cause a lot of the drama within Archie's life. A lot of it he does bring about himself, and I like that. I like that we do have a flawed protagonist. I like that Archie is definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he suggests they sing together at the homecoming dance, but Veronica's interrupted by a text from Betty, and she actually leaves, and I love that she doesn't really get to answer him because there's just too much going on, but Veronica, Betty, and Alice then meet in the Blue and Gold's room, and Alice is theorizing about who murdered Jason and believes that FP and Hiram are both tied to it, which honestly does make a lot of sense. As we know, they both have connections to the Blossoms, and as we know, FP has Jason's jacket, and Betty grows defensively, saying that she trusts Jughead enough to not suspect FP. Like, why would Jughead be doing all this to just defend his father? There's no way that Jughead would do that, and you know, she knows that Jughead, he doesn't lie, and, you know, he doesn't do that kind of thing. He's not really going to keep anything like that. So, Polly wanders through the Blossom house. She finds Clifford in a room filled with red wigs, and he's not, it's a very creepy scene. We don't know what this is about, but there are all these red wigs here, and he slams the door in her face. So, that's probably the creepiest scene in the episode. We don't know what this whole red wig obsession is about, but clearly there's some sort of connection with that, or some sort of obsession that Clifford has with red wigs. I don't know what the hell it means, but Veronica then meets with Alice, and she offers to find out the truth about FP, since she's not as tied to the Jones family as Betty is. And Cheryl then announces that she's bringing Polly as her date to the homecoming dance, and that the pair are campaigning to be dual homecoming queens, to honor the fact that Polly and Jason really should have been homecoming royalty. And I do like the way that Cheryl is trying to be this friend to Polly and really help her out, but at the same time, you know Cheryl wants to get something out of this. Like, she's not just going to do all this without her getting her own piece of the cake, and that's exactly what she's doing. I mean, she's simultaneously helping out Polly and really making her feel good, like, oh, you have a chance at this at least, but also really getting her chance in the spotlight. That's just kind of the way Cheryl does things, and, you know, I think we're used to that at this point. Like, Cheryl, yeah, she does try to be a good person. She has her moments, definitely, where she does try to help out people, but in the end, when it comes to herself, I mean, she kind of always puts herself before others. That's just kind of who Cheryl is, but Archie asks Betty if he can sing at the homecoming dance, and Betty says that Archie's songs are really too somber for the event, and I like that she, like, told him that they're emo and that they're just depressing, and they make her want to slit her wrists, because, I mean, yeah, they're not exactly the happiest of songs, but Veronica reassures that the two of them will be performing covers, because Archie's songs really aren't that great, and I think it's something this first season explored pretty well, is that his songs really are not that great. They're nothing really that memorable. And Veronica then pulls Archie aside, tells him about her plan with FP, and Archie defends FP, but Veronica reminds him that Jughead could be in danger if things further escalate. I mean, he could be involved in something really dangerous and messy if things get really bad, because, you know, as we know, Alice is intent on exposing FP and trying to make him be the one that's guilty for this, because she feels like there's really no other culprit. There's really only so many other people that could be responsible. FP does make quite a lot of sense. You can understand why Alice does feel the way, but at the same time, would Jughead really continue to bond with his father if he thought that he had ties to Jason's murder? Would he really continue to do that? That's one of the big things I definitely thought was interesting here. So Mary then visits Andrew's construction to Hermione's surprise, and Mary says she's been following the news about Hiram's arrest, which Hermione considers to be payback for how she treated people back in high school. Now, I'm guessing these two did in fact know each other, and that Hermione and Mary maybe were in fact rivals, and maybe Hermione maybe bullied Mary, but I thought this was kind of a good scene. It's kind of the equivalent of if Cheryl were to go to Ethel and kind of apologize for how she was to Ethel or something like that. It very much reminded me of that, but I thought it was good because what I love about seeing the parents and the kids is kind of like the reflection of how the parents are very much what these kids are going to kind of turn out to be like and what they're trying to not turn out like, and that they are trying to make these amends, and I thought that was just a really good scene. I like seeing that, and they're really utilizing Mary Andrews quite well. You know, I thought she was just going to kind of be there to just get Archie back, but she seems to be a lot more than just a plot-driven character. I thought that's really what she was going to be. She was there for plot, but it doesn't really seem like that's what they're doing, which I'm happy about. But Polly then calls Betty and explains that she's running for homecoming queen with Cheryl to keep Cheryl busy, while, of course, as we know, Polly is actually investigating the family. You know, she really wants no part of being, you know, at the Blossom. She's really just there to investigate the family, and Betty suggests that Polly needs to return home if she can't find out anything by homecoming, because it's a very dangerous situation. Someone's eventually going to find out, and especially the whole thing with Clifford, I mean, I just get out of there now, but I get why Polly is so intent on doing this. I mean, this was her boyfriend, someone that she very much cared about, and, you know, she wants to be the one to see it through. She wants to make sure this case is closed and that the person that is responsible is, in fact, you know, held culpable for it. And I think she definitely is smart by doing that. But Hermione comes in with Polly's daily milkshake. She chastises Polly for wandering into the restricted parts of the mansion, which she's not supposed to do, and Jughead then reveals to Betty that Alice has invited him and FP over for dinner, and she tries to hide her surprise. She knew that this was probably going to happen, and I like that she's trying to make it seem like this is a good thing when deep down she knows it's not. But Betty then confronts Alice about the dinner invitation, and she says that Alice is really just using it as a ruse to interrogate FP, and that there really is no other reason for her to do this. She's just doing this to expose him. But Alice reassures her that it's actually an excuse to get their families together, which is a load of bullshit. I mean, we know that Alice really just wants to make it seem like FP is the one responsible, and, you know, there really is no other reason for her to do that. You know, it just seems too coincidental. So Archie arrives home to Fred and Mary, who are trying to decide really what to get for dinner, and Archie's surprised to see them doing things together. I mean, it's been so long since these two were together. This was the one part of the episode I didn't really buy. We know Fred and Mary, things really did not work out well for them. We know Mary's been gone for a long time. I just didn't buy that Fred and Mary would be this, would just be this pleasant and this normal towards each other. I thought there was at least going to be just a little bit of animosity, maybe just a little bit of regrets, and I just didn't feel like, you know, I just didn't really feel like these two would be as happy to see each other as they were in this episode. It would almost seem like Mary, didn't willingly leave. Like, she left for, like, forcefully left or had to leave for some reason, and it was more like she was back from, like, a business trip or something, and less of the fact that these two are probably divorced. I mean, it just didn't really feel that way, and to me, it didn't really feel as realistic as some of the other stuff in the show has. This just didn't really work as well as I think they wanted to. And like I said, it's really the only element to this episode that I just didn't really buy. Everything else was fine. It was just this in particular I just didn't really buy, especially with Fred and Hermione together and them having their whole thing. I didn't really buy that Fred and Mary would be this happy to see each other and that they would act like they are still in a relationship. It just didn't really seem like that's the way they would react. But Mary then announces to Archie and Jughead that she, Fred, and Hermione are all chaperoning the dance so that they can see Archie play. And I'm guessing, like, they want to put aside their differences, but again, that's not really shown in the episode. Like, we didn't really have a lot of scenes between Fred and Mary, and maybe they're waiting, maybe Mary's gonna be on for the last 2 episodes or whatever, but I just felt like they didn't really utilize that as well as they could. But later that night, Jughead wonders whether or not he should move back in with FP now that he's begun to get his life back together, because it seems like things are okay there, and he reveals to Archie that FP has now been reading his writings about Jason's murder, which Archie finds very suspicious. I mean, why is FP so interested about this? And Archie makes an excuse to leave, and Jughead jokes that he's going to visit Veronica. He thinks this is just Archie going for like a booty call, but Archie does go to visit Veronica, but he's obviously not there to bang her. He's there to help find out the truth about FP. I mean, that's what they need to get to the bottom of this. So Cheryl helps Polly do her makeup. Polly suggests they borrow Penelope's jewelry to wear to the dance, and Cheryl and Polly then sneak through Penelope and Clifford's dressing room. Cheryl finds Polly's engagement ring and asks how it got back into Penelope's hands, because this is in fact her engagement ring, and she begins to confront Cheryl, who reminds Polly that she isn't safe living with the Blossoms, even as she's carrying Jason's babies. I mean, it could still end up very badly for her. For all we know, I mean, Polly could end up guilty for what happened. I mean, this could end up being a very bad situation for her. And I like that Cheryl was honest with her about that because, I mean, Cheryl's not wrong. This is not a safe situation. But as we know, Polly isn't there to be in a safe space. She's there to investigate this family. She's there to make sure that she gets to the bottom of this case. That's the one part that Cheryl doesn't know about. And you can understand why Cheryl is trying to help her here. But she's not, but again, Polly is not there, to feel comfortable or to make herself feel welcomed into the family. That's not at all what's going on. So I thought that was definitely very interesting that we saw. I really do like that Cheryl is being honest with her there. So even though she was very blunt about it, I mean, again, she's not wrong. This is not a safe situation in any way, shape, or form. But during dinner between the Coopers and the Jonases, Alice confronts FP about his allegiance to the Serpents because she knows he does have ties to it, and as well as the events with the drive-in because, of course, he is responsible for that. And the doorbell rings and Betty invites Hal in. And I was surprised to see Hal back, but Archie and Veronica then find the spare key to FP's trailer. They enter it and snoop around, and Penelope tells Polly that Jason disavowed the Blossom family leading up to his death, and he had thrown the engagement ring at his parents, apparently, basically. You know, he apparently wanted nothing to do with this engagement ring, and he threw it to them, and, again, you can't really fully trust Penelope in what she's saying. You know, I think really Penelope's comments are kind of questionable. Again, it's kind of just her doing what she can to make Polly look worse and to make Jason look worse, and it just seems like she's trying to cover up for something. We don't really know what exactly she's covering up for. I'm not saying Penelope is the one who is responsible for the murder, but I do think she does have an idea of who it is, and I don't know if I fully trust all of Polly's words. Especially if I was Polly, I definitely would not trust what Penelope is saying here. So Hal then criticizes Alice for how she handled their separation, which honestly, I don't blame him for. Really, I don't blame him for getting upset at her, because the way she reacted to that, I don't really think was really rational in any way. I mean, what she did to him, yes, I get obviously why she kicked him out, but throwing a brick where he was staying probably was not the best course of action to take, so I can understand why he was upset. And FP that remembers their homecoming dance, and Hal and Alice were actually homecoming royalty, but they fought during the night, although FP's not exactly sure what it was about. So Penelope, Clifford, and Cheryl stand over Polly, who has been drugged to sleep instead of going to the homecoming dance. You can tell they clearly do have some sort of intent for her, and Penelope asks Cheryl about the family ring, which has actually gone missing, and Cheryl explains she flushed it down the toilet to end the drama about it, which we'll get back into that in a little bit. But back at the trailer, Archie and Veronica haven't found anything to incriminate FP, so Veronica explains that she needs to be sure about her dad's innocence before he gets out of jail, because, I mean, obviously, he is set to be released, but she's not entirely sure if he actually is innocent. So Archie reassures that he will be there to help her through all of that, and they kiss before getting a text from Alice suggesting that they need to leave the trailer before FP returns, and FP then drops Betty and Jughead off at the dance. FP then pulls Jughead aside and suggests that they bring the family back together in Toledo, and Jughead's very hesitant. I think he's kind of just conflicted on what to do right now. I mean, on one hand, he does really care about his father. He's happy his father seems to be, in a sense, getting his life together somewhat. But on the other hand, he knows that there are a lot of allegations against his father right now, so he really doesn't know what to do. And honestly, you can't really you can't really blame Jughead for not really knowing what path to take here, because, I mean, it's just so divided. Everyone kind of has their own thing for FP. Like, everyone thinks, you know, Archie and Veronica, they're not sure, but they're trying to get evidence. Alice is, like, 100% sure it's FP. Betty is trying to keep FP out of it. So Jughead definitely knows that there's something going on with FP, and he really should not be involved in what's going on. So everyone arrives at the dance. Betty approaches Cheryl and asks about Polly, and Cheryl says that Polly crashed from a sugar high, and that she regrets helping her in the first place, which, I mean, Cheryl is definitely messed up. I mean, I definitely will say that, like, even though Cheryl, like I said, she does have those good moments, she still is very fucked up, and a lot of what she does, I mean, it's definitely not, again, the most rational stuff to do. But Alice and Mary then make small talk in the bathroom. Alice brings up Fred and Hermione's affair, but Mary says she doesn't really care about it, which, again, I just didn't really understand this plot. Like, why is Mary not fine with Fred and Hermione's affair? I don't understand why this is such an okay thing for her. Like, why are they acting like everything's fine? I just didn't really understand this. Like, why is she avoiding all of this drama from Fred? I get that obviously she wants to be, I guess, make Archie come home to a more welcoming house, but if she's gonna take Archie to Riverdale, why does it really matter how she treats Fred? Like, honestly, she should do everything in her power to try to make Archie dislike Fred and try to show why Archie shouldn't live with Fred anymore. Like, if I was Mary and I knew that, if I was married and I knew that the person that I was in a relationship with, her husband, actually had an affair with someone, I wouldn't just be like, all right, whatever. I would do everything I could to try to get Archie to come to that realization that Riverdale is just not a safe place. And Fred in general is not the right person to raise him. I just feel like that would be the right thing to do, and I just didn't really understand why Mary was so forgiving about it all. So Betty looks to Veronica and Archie. She finds him talking to Alice. She gets confused, but is stopped by Weatherby and Mayor McCoy, and she ignores them, instead focusing on Alice and Veronica's conversation across the dance floor. So I guess, she's ignoring them, but Betty then confronts Veronica and Archie, but they brush it off. Like, it's not a big deal, like, everything's fine, she doesn't have to worry about it, but Betty knows deep down what's really going on here. So Mayor McCoy then walks on stage, introduces Archie and Veronica, and they then perform Kids in America is actually the cover they did. I actually really enjoyed this. I thought Archie actually sounded really good here, like KJ App, I believe is his name, actually sounded really good on this song. Like, I want to see him do more stuff like this. Like, this is the kind of stuff I want to see Archie do, and more stuff for Archie and Veronica in general. I like seeing these two sing together. I thought her vocals were pretty good too, and I thought just as a whole they worked really well together. But as we see, this is actually intercut with Sheriff Keller. He's searching through FP's apartment, and he finds a lockbox with a gun inside, which obviously helps him gain more evidence, but doesn't really look good on FP's part, obviously. So couples and slow dance. Kevin and Joaquin are interrupted by Jughead, who we know that Joaquin is kind of using Kevin right now, so you really do feel bad for Kevin in this situation, but he asks where Betty is. He goes to find her, and Kevin then follows behind, and Betty then asks Veronica and Archie why they were investigating FP, because as we know, she was trying to keep Jughead out of it. And Jughead shows up, and Archie, Veronica, and Betty tell him the truth, and Jughead regrets wanting to stay behind in Riverdale for his friends, and he grows very upset. Like, he really wishes he got out of Riverdale, because as we know, Jughead knows Riverdale's not a safe place, really. So Kevin and the parents arrive. They reveal that FP has just been arrested for Jason's murder, and yeah, FP actually has taken the fall. And Jughead then storms outside. He's freaking out, obviously. Betty, Veronica, and Archie then watch him leave, and you kind of do feel bad for them, but at the same time, you kind of have to blame them because they didn't really do anything to stop it. Like, they continued to incriminate evidence against FP. Not for FP, but against FP. In general, they tried to make sure that he was the one guilty. They didn't try to make things better for Jughead. Again, it's kind of their fault, but Jughead then arrives at FP's trailer. He tears it apart, and he starts crying, remembering what his dad had previously said about his innocence. And there's so much going through Jughead's head right now. Just this whole scene. Cole Sprouse acted the hell out of this scene. Just the whole thing, because as we know, he thought FP had his life together, but at the same time, he doesn't really know now. Like, FP on one hand, seemed like he had his life together, but after all this, now it seems like FP could actually be innocent. Is everything he said a complete lie? Is he actually guilty for what he did? I mean, there are just so many things going through his head, and he's really the one I felt kind of the worst for here, because again, he didn't really do anything for or against his father. He tried to stay out of it, and unfortunately, he just made things worse by doing that. So Betty asks Alice if she was the one who tipped off Sheriff Keller. She says she didn't, but is glad that Betty is done with the Jones family. And Betty says she loves Jughead and wants to go find him. I have no doubt these two are probably getting back together at some point. I think that definitely is going to happen, but Hermione says that FP's confession could bring their family into this case. She reassures Veronica that if Hiram did have something to do with the murder, the two of them will cut ties with him completely. So I like that they did come to this compromise that, if something if Hiram was involved with this, then they'll just leave him, leave him completely. So Mary reveals to Archie that she wanted him to move to Chicago with her before Riverdale descends into chaos, and Archie says he will think about it, and Fred then overhears that, and Cheryl then checks to see if Polly's still breathing. She wraps her in a blanket. She goes to Penelope and Clifford, who are crying. Cheryl then pulls the engagement ring out of her pocket and holds it into her hand. So it turns out she didn't actually flush it down the toilet. She still has it. We don't know why, but for some reason, Cheryl still has it. And then we get to the ending here where Betty meets with Veronica and Archie at Pop's. They tell her that the lockbox with the gun wasn't there when they cased FP's apartment, meaning someone had to have framed him, that he definitely is not responsible for what's going on, and that is the way this episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and where I think we're going to go before the killer is revealed. So overall, guys, this was another really great episode. I definitely really loved a lot of stuff going on here, but let's first talk about FP, because if there's one person that is responsible for Jason's murder, it's definitely not FP. I don't think there's enough evidence. Yes, there definitely are things that tie him to it, but like I said, I think he knows someone who is responsible rather than he himself is responsible. I think he's taking the fall for the actual culprit. I don't think he's the one that is responsible for it. So we'll have to see what ends up going down there. I really did feel bad for Jughead, though. I mean, how could you not? He was just at the point where it seemed like things were okay between FP and Jughead. After all this time, things seemed okay between these two. But right when things seem like, I'm trying to stay out of it, I'm going to try to make sure I stay away from this case, now he's realizing that he probably just should have gotten the hell out of Riverdale, because it's just kind of screwed up things and made things a lot worse than they are. Because by Betty not really doing anything and trying to lead Jughead out of it, it just kind of made things worse, because that didn't stop Archie and Veronica from finding evidence against FP, which I get why they were trying to do that, because, I mean, hey, if he's responsible, they need to find what they can to make sure that he is. I get why they were trying to do that, but they didn't really think of anyone else that could possibly be in the running. However, Veronica does feel that Hiram could possibly be the one involved. Now, I don't think that Hiram is either, because, again, we haven't seen him. We've only heard about him in passing, on the show. So I don't think that, because of the fact we have not seen Hiram physically, I doubt that he's going to be the killer. It wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't be nearly as big as a reveal, because the character we haven't actually seen before. Sure, we've mentioned a lot of things between these two. If we saw Hiram in, flashbacks or whatever, sure, maybe it would be a well-done reveal, but it's really less of a reveal and more of an introduction to the character, because that is our introduction to that character, physically. Of course, you guys know what I'm saying. Yeah, sure, we've heard about him before, but that will be, the first time we physically see that character. I just don't see that happening. It doesn't really seem like that would make any sense if they did that, so I doubt that he is the one responsible. I don't think that it's going to be him. I do think the Blossoms are very heavily connected to this. I definitely think they are a big part of this, because as we saw, they're kind of the most fucked up of them all. Cheryl clearly kept that ring for a reason. I don't know if it's for, collateral damage against her family, or if she's trying to protect Polly, but I did like the way she was straight up with Polly and said, look, you're not safe here, if you really think that those babies guarantee that you're completely safe from us, and that you're going to be in the good side of the family, and that the whole Cooper Blossom rivalry is over, that's just not the case. And I like that she was straight up with her about that, but the fact that she basically made her go to sleep, I thought was very strange. I mean, I get why she was trying to do that. I guess she was trying to leave her out of it or whatever, but Cheryl clearly has her own plan up her sleeve. I don't really know what exactly she's going to do here, but we'll have to see where that's going to go. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting to see how that all works out. But like I said, I don't know what the significance of that ring is. Even things that Penelope are saying, I really don't trust again, honestly. I don't really trust what Penelope is saying here, where she's saying that Jason, threw the ring and everything. I just don't possibly see that happening. I think there clearly is something that she's trying to cover up. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm interested in seeing really what goes down there. Like I said, my only real problem with this episode has to do with Mary. I like the way they utilized her with the whole thing going on with her and Alice. Clearly, these two did have some sort of feud, or maybe she bullied her. But clearly, Mary did know her from high school, and I guess she was trying to patch things up with her. They just didn't really give us enough with this character. And maybe it's because they introduced her, I think, a little bit too late into the season. But the fact that she is so, not forgiving, but she's just so fine with what Fred did, I just don't really understand it. Like, again, if I was trying to get my son out of Riverdale, I would do all I can to try to persuade him to get out. I wouldn't just be like, all right, it's fine. That doesn't really make it seem like, you know, she's comfortable. That makes it seem like she's comfortable there, which deep down she's not. She wants to do what she can to get him out of there, and I persuade him to just leave because Fred is a terrible person. That's what she should try to do. So I just don't really understand why things were so okay between them. I mean, he's not going out of Riverdale. At least I don't think that's what she wants to do. So I don't really understand what's going on there. That didn't really make much sense to me at all. And again, I just didn't really understand that part of the episode. Look, I like Molly Ringwald. I think she's a fantastic actress. I'm glad to see they've gotten her on this show. But right now, I just don't really understand where they really plan on going with Mary, because we know Archie's obviously not going to leave Riverdale. He's our main character. That's just not going to happen. So I really am interested in seeing what they're going to do with her, what the plan is with her from here on out, because I don't really know what's going to happen there. And then Jughead. Again, I really do feel bad for Jughead here. Betty and Jughead, like I said, I think they are going to set up Jughead realizing that he's asexual. I think that definitely is going to be set up at some point. I think the fact that he is so focused on this murder and he is so focused on getting out of Riverdale, I think they're already starting to show signs of it, but I think they definitely are setting that up as the show goes along. Overall, guys, I definitely really did enjoy this episode. This was another really great episode. I can't wait to see really where the show is going to go from here. And I'm definitely going to give Riverdale Season 1, Episode 11 to Riverdale and Back Again a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So for guys, maybe this episode of Riverdale, let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall, left your thoughts in it. I am really interested in seeing where we're going to go here. Guys, this is it. The next episode, we will find out who the killer is. I have no idea how that's all going to play out, but I am so intrigued in seeing the way that's all going to go down. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for the latest episode of Riverdale, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.